Okay, if you're thinking about moving to Washington, D.C. here in 2026, I'm about to say something that'll either save you tens of thousands of dollars or make you immediately question everything you thought about this market. And yes, living inside the district might be the very best decision you can make for your lifestyle and career. Or on the flip side, it could be the most expensive mistake that drains your bank account and leaves you wondering what you were thinking. All this depends on one factor most people completely ignore when they're researching their move here to the district. And in the next 20 minutes or so, you're going to know exactly which category you fall into. You're going to understand the real financial impact of making this decision, and most importantly, you're going to have the framework to make the right choice for your specific situation. So today we're doing a real expectations versus reality review of living in Washington, D.C. versus living around Washington, D.C. in 2026. And look, this is not the brochure version that you're used to seeing on those glossy real estate websites. And this is one of those Chamber of Commerce pitches. This is a lived-in version of someone who's helped hundreds of young professionals and families navigate this exact decision every year, and who also lives in the area. And here's what most people don't realize. The DC metropolitan area is one of the most unique housing markets in the entire country. You've got the district itself, then you have Montgomery County, you have Prince George's County in Maryland, Alexandria and Fairfax in Virginia, and each of these offers a completely different lifestyle at a completely different price point. And the difference between choosing the right one and choosing the wrong one can literally be $3,000 per month. That's $36,000 per year. That's enough to completely change your financial trajectory. Growth in this region has been explosive for decades, and it continues to attract some of the highest earning professionals in the country. But growth can be a double-edged sword. It's either a cheat code that sets you up for long-term wealth and an amazing lifestyle, or it's a trap that leaves you house poor, commute stressed, and wondering why you didn't do more research. So let's test it and find out. And here's the mistake I see people make every single day. People always ask me, so Jarriel, what's the best place to live in the DC area? And they ask this as if there's one singular answer, as if I can just tell you Arlington or Capitol Hill or Silver Spring. That's going to solve everything for you. And honestly, there's just not one right answer. The truth is, the best place for you entirely depends on your lifestyle, your career, your family situation, your commute, your budget, and frankly, your tolerance for trade-offs, because every single neighborhood in the region requires trade-offs. So in this video, we're using a 5-factor scorecard, and if living in the district wins your scorecard, then it's a yes for you. If living around the district in the suburbs wins your scorecard, then there's your answer. And you're going to walk away from this video knowing exactly which one makes more sense for your situation. And here are the 5 categories for the scorecard to test whether living in DC or living around DC fits your lifestyle. Number 1 is money and housing. We're talking about the real cost of buying or renting inside the district versus the suburbs, and especially what you get for your money. If this passes the test for you, it could be a financial win, or it could be a disaster. Number 2 is commute and access to jobs, which is absolutely critical in this region. The DMV has some of the worst traffic in America, but also has some of the best metro systems. So understanding how this plays out in real life is extremely important. Number 3 is safety and peace of mind. And look, DC has a reputation. Some of it is deserved, some of it is completely outdated. We're going to talk about the real and what's perception, and how this compares to the suburbs. Number 4 is about family life, community, and amenities. This is about the day-to-day experience. What does your weekend look like? What does your evening look like? Where do you go for dinner? Where do your kids go to school? This is lifestyle, and it matters more than people think. And last but certainly not least, number 5 is future-proof. This means understanding what's happening in these neighborhoods, what development is coming, what infrastructure is being built, and most importantly, where long-term value is in this market. And stay to the end, because I'll share with you exactly the type of person that living in DC is perfect for, and the type of person who will end up absolutely hating it and wishing they had chosen differently. And I think it's kind of important. You probably want to know which one of these 2 categories you fall into before you sign a lease or lock in a mortgage. Because the best can mean the safest, cleanest, most convenient, best schools, best commute, the most fun, access to the best career opportunities, and the best long-term value. And those things don't always overlap in the same neighborhood. And overall, when we're talking about living in Washington, D.C., we're competing in one very specific lane in this region's housing market, and that is urban lifestyle, walkability, access to career and culture opportunities, proximity to power and influence, and the ability to live without a car if you choose. You're trading space and affordability for location and access, and all of that and more without the soul-crushing commutes that people living in places like Woodbridge or Germantown or even parts of Montgomery County are dealing with every single day. But here's the trade. You're going to pay for that convenience in rent dollars. And depending on your situation, you might be paying for it in lifestyle limitations too. Smaller spaces, no yard, street parking nightmares, noise, and higher cost of living across the board. So we're really talking about two Washington, D.C. experiences. The first is the urban dream. You're walking to work, you're walking to world-class restaurants, you're going to Smithsonian museums on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. You're in the center of power, policy, and culture. You're networking at happy hours in Penn Quarter. You're catching shows at the Kennedy Center. You're riding your bike on the weekend to Eastern Market or Georgetown. You have access to everything and you feel plugged into the energy of the city. But on the flip side of the coin, you're dealing with a higher rent or mortgage payment, smaller square footage, less privacy, more noise, a lot more parking challenges, and the reality that if you want to start a family and get into a good school, you might be looking at private school tuition on top of everything else. And that's what I mean when I say that the infrastructure is different when you live in the city versus living in the suburbs. Your trade-offs are different. Your daily rhythms are different, and your long-term financial picture is different. And your personal experiences as to whether or not you're living in DC or around DC depends entirely on what your motivating factors are for moving here in the first place. Are you motivated by career acceleration, cultural access, and urban energy? Or are you motivated by space, affordability, good public schools, and a quiet, family-oriented lifestyle? Let's break this down factor by factor. So let's talk money. This is where living in DC versus around DC can either be a genius financial move or one that's honestly a little bit painful when you look and see what you're actually getting for your money. If you search home prices or rental prices in Washington, D.C., you're going to see numbers all over the place, and sometimes it feels like the data is contradicting itself. For example, Zillow might show the median home price in DC around $700,000. Redfin might show something different. Apartments.com might show one-bedroom apartments ranging from $2,200 to $4,500 per month, depending on the neighborhood. And that range is huge. And here's why that happens. Different platforms use different data sets and time periods in different neighborhoods to calculate their averages. A one-bedroom in Navy Yard is going to cost you very differently than a one-bedroom in, let's say, Columbia Heights or Pentworth or Shaw. A townhouse in Capitol Hill is going to be priced completely different than a comparable townhouse in Brooklyn, for example. So here's a general rule that I like to use if you're considering moving relatively soon. In other words, what you'll actually pay this year to live here, you'll need to look at the current active listings in the specific neighborhoods that you're targeting. Don't rely on metro-wide averages because they're going to mislead you. But if you're tracking what the value of real estate is going to do over time, or if you're trying to understand long-term appreciation, but if you're looking to track the value of real estate over time, or you're trying to understand long-term appreciation, then you want to look at broader trends and historical data. And that's where working with someone like me who has access to the MLS and comprehensive market data becomes extremely valuable. So let me give you some real numbers. As of early 2026, here's what we're looking at. Inside the district, a one-bedroom apartment in a desirable neighborhood like Navy Yard, Logan Circle, or Shaw is going to run you anywhere from $2,500 to $3,500 a month. A two-bedroom is going to be $3,200 to $4,500 a month. And if you want a luxury building with amenities, parking, and a rooftop deck, you could be pushing $5,000 a month or more for a two-bedroom apartment. Now let's compare that to living around DC. In Arlington, you're looking at a similar price, maybe slightly less. A one bedroom in Clarendon or Courthouse may be $2,200 or $3,200. Boston's going to be a similar range, but once you go a little further and dive into places like Silver Spring, Bethesda, Alexandria, or even College Park, you're going to start seeing more spaces for less money. A two-bedroom apartment in Silver Spring might run $2,200 to $2,800. A townhouse rental in Bowie or Laurel might be $2,500 to $3,000 with a garage and a yard. And if you go even further to places like Frederick, Germantown, or Woodbridge, you can rent a full single-family home with 3 to 4 bedrooms, a driveway, and a yard for $2,500 to $3,200 per month. That's the spread. That's the $3,000 per month decision you're making when you're moving to DC. You're either paying a premium to be in a city with walkability and access, or you're getting significantly more space and saving money by accepting a longer commute and car dependency. Now let's talk about buying, because this is where it gets even more significant. The median home price inside DC is hovering around $700,000 to $750,000, depending on the neighborhood. neighborhood. But the averages include anything from condos in Columbia Heights at $400,000 to row houses in Capitol Heights at $1.2 million. So this range is even massive. If you want to buy a 2-bedroom condo in a decent neighborhood in DC, you're probably looking at $500,000 to $650,000 at a minimum. A 3-bedroom row house in an up-and-coming neighborhood like Penworth or Brooklyn might be $650,000 to $850,000. And if you want Capitol Hill, Georgetown, or DuPont Circle, you're looking at well over $1 million for anything with outdoor space and parking. Compare that to the suburbs. A 3-bedroom townhouse in Montgomery County or Fairfax might be $500,000 to $650,000. A single-family home in a good school district in Howard County or Prince William County might be $550,000 to $700,000 with a yard, a garage, 2,500 square feet. So you're paying a location premium of anywhere from $150,000 to $400,000 to be inside the district. And here's exactly why that matters. That premium translates to higher monthly mortgage payments, higher property taxes, higher condo fees if you're living in a building, and a higher cost of living overall. On the flip side, you're also potentially looking at better long-term appreciation in core DC neighborhoods, better walkability, lower transportation costs because you might not need a car, and access to a lifestyle that the suburbs just can't replicate. So the question becomes, is that premium worth it to you? And that depends entirely on other factors in the scorecard. Let's talk about commute and access to jobs, because this is where the decision to live in DC versus around DC gets really, really real. The DMV has some of the worst traffic congestion in the entire United States. We're consistently ranked top 5 in worst cities for traffic. And if you've ever tried to get to Woodbridge into downtown DC during rush hour, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're looking at an hour and a half to 2 hours each way on a bad day. That's 3 to 4 hours per day in your car. That's 15 to 20 hours per week. That's essentially a part-time job just to be sitting in traffic. Now compare that to living inside the district. If you live in Navy Yard and you work on K Street, you're taking the metro. That's a 15 to 25 minute commute. If you live in Shaw and you work at the lobbying firm in DuPont Circle, you're walking or taking a 10-minute metro ride. If you live in Capitol Hill and you work for a federal agency or on the Hill itself, you might be walking or biking into work in under 20 minutes. That difference in commute is not just convenience. It's lifestyle, it's health, it's time with your family, it's time to hit the gym. It's time to actively live your life instead of sitting on I-95 or the Beltway. And here's the thing, time is money, but your time is also mental health and quality of life. If you're spending 3 hours a day commuting, and that's 3 hours you're not spending with your kids at the gym, cooking dinner, sleeping, or working on your side business, that adds up fast. But let's be balanced here, because not everyone works downtown. And the rise of remote and hybrid work has changed the equation significantly. If your job is fully remote or hybrid where you're only going into the office 2 to 3 days a week, then living in the suburbs and dealing with a longer commute on those days might be totally worth it for the extra space and cost of savings. If you work in Tyson's Corner, living in Alexandria or Falls Church might actually give you a reverse commute that's faster and easier than living in DC. If you work for Fort Meade or in Columbia, Maryland, living in Silver Spring or Laurel makes much more sense than living in the district. And if you work in Northern Virginia, specifically Tysons, Reston, or Arlington, you might find that living in Virginia suburbs like McLean, Vienna, or even Fairfax give you better access than living in DC and having to cross the river every day. So the commute question is not a one-size-fits-all. It depends entirely on where your job is located. But here's what I tell everyone. Factor in the extra 15 to 20 minutes on top of whatever Google Maps tells you, especially if you're commuting during peak rush hour. Google Maps doesn't account for metro delays, parking time, walking from the parking garage to your office, or just the general chaos that is rush hour in the DMV. And if your job is in downtown DC and you're considering living far out in the suburbs to save money, really think hard about whether the trade-off is worth it for you. Because yes, you may save $1,500 to $2,000 a month in housing costs, but you're also spending an extra 2 to 3 hours per day commuting. That's an extra 10 to 15 hours per week. That's an extra 40 to 60 hours per month. That's basically trading your life for cheaper rent. Now on the flip side, if you're young, single, ambitious, and your career is your #1 priority, then living in the district gives you something that the suburbs can't give you. And that's access. Access to networking events, access to happy hours where you're meeting other ambitious professionals, access to spontaneous opportunities, access to the energy and the culture, the scenes that drive the career acceleration in this city. I've seen this over and over again with my clients. The ones who live in the city tend to advance faster in their careers because they're plugged in, they're visible, they're at the right events, they're meeting the right people. And when opportunities come up, they're on top of mind because they're around. So if commute time and career access are high on your scorecard, then living in DC is really competitive in that department. But if you value space, affordability, and have flexibility with your work situation, then the suburbs can make a lot more sense. Now let's talk safety. Let's talk about safety and peace of mind, because this is one of the biggest concerns I hear from people moving to DC, especially if they're coming from smaller cities or suburban areas. And look, I'm going to be real with you. Washington, DC has a reputation for crime, and some of that reputation is deserved, and some of it is outdated or simply over-exaggerated. The reality is that DC is a tale of two cities. There are neighborhoods in DC that are incredibly safe, clean, walkable, and family friendly, and there are neighborhoods where you need to be aware of your surroundings, especially at night. Neighborhoods like Capitol Hill, Navy Yard, DuPont Circle, Logan Circle, parts of Shaw and Pentworth are generally very safe. You'll see families, professionals, people walking their dog at night, joggers. Crime happens, but it's relatively rare, and it's usually property crime like package theft or car break-ins, not violent crime. But there are also neighborhoods in DC where crime rates are a lot higher. Parts of Southeast, parts of Northeast, and some east of the river have higher rates of violent crime and property crime, and that data bears this out. According to the latest DC crime statistics, the city overall has seen fluctuations in violent crime over the past few years, but many of the gentrifying neighborhoods have actually gotten safer as more development and more residents have started moving in. Now compare that to the suburbs. Places like Arlington, Alexandria, Bethesda, Rockville, and most of Montgomery County and Fairfax County are statistically very safe. Crime rates are low, schools are excellent, it feels suburban, quiet, and family oriented. But here's the trade. You're also more car dependent, which means you're dealing with parking, traffic, and general inconveniences that come with the suburban lifestyle. So if safety is really high on your scorecard and you want peace of mind that comes with low crime rates and a quiet suburban neighborhood, then the suburbs around DC are really strong in that department. But if you're comfortable with urban living, you're aware of your surroundings, and you choose the right DC neighborhood, you can absolutely live safe and comfortable in DC. And here's my advice. If you're looking to move to DC and safety is a top concern, work with someone like me who knows these neighborhoods block by block, because the difference between one block and the next block in some DC neighborhoods can be significant. And I'll show you exactly which streets are safe, which buildings have good security, and which areas you should avoid. And one more thing. A lot of people worry about package theft in the city, and yes, that happens. But most newer apartments have package rooms, concierge services, or Amazon lockers. So it's manageable, it's just part of city life. If safety and peace of mind are your top priorities, then the suburbs win. But if you're willing to be smart about where you live in the city, DC can be perfectly safe. Now let's talk about lifestyle, family life, community, and amenities, because this is where the decision between living in DC and around DC really comes down to what kind of lifestyle you want to live on a day-to-day basis. And look, Washington, DC is built for a very specific type of lifestyle. It's urban, walkable, cultural, and it's social. You've got world-class museums, and many of them are free. You've got incredible restaurants representing every cuisine on the planet. You've got rooftop bars, live music, theater and comedy shows, professional sports with the Capitals, the Wizards, and the Nationals. You've got farmers market. You've got waterfront access along the Potomac and Anacostia. You've got bike trails. You have running paths and parks. So if you're young, ambitious, and social, DC offers a lifestyle that very few cities in America can match. Your weekends can be spent exploring a new neighborhood, trying a new restaurant, going to a Nationals game, visiting a museum exhibit, attending a networking event, or just walking around Georgetown on a Sunday afternoon. And the walkability is a huge part of this. If you live in the right DC neighborhood, you can walk to the grocery store, walk to the gym, walk to brunch, walk to happy hour, or walk to work. You don't need a car. You can take the metro or take an Uber or a bike ride. That's freedom, that's convenience, and that's a different quality of life. Now let's talk about the flip side. If you're building a family or if you already have kids, this equation changes significantly. And DC public schools are a mixing bag. Some schools are excellent, especially in neighborhoods like Capitol Hill and parts of the Northwest. But the reality is families who live in DC end up either moving to the suburbs when their kids reach school age, or they're paying for private school, which in DC can be $20,000 to $40,000 per child per year. And if you've got 2 kids, then that's $40,000 to $80,000 a year just for school. That's on top of your rent or your mortgage. That's a huge financial burden. Compare that to suburbs like Montgomery County, having some of the best public school systems in the country. Schools in Bethesda, Rockville, and Potomac are nationally ranked. Fairfax County, same thing. Schools in McLean, Great Falls, and Arlington are excellent. Howard County, same story. So if you have kids or plan on having kids in the next few years, then the suburbs offer something that DC just doesn't. And that's access to excellent public schools, more space for your kids to run around, yards, driveways, cul-de-sacs, and a more family-oriented feel. And this is the trade-off. If you're living in the suburbs, your weekends tend to look a little different. You're driving to soccer practice, you're driving to the grocery store, you're driving to dinner. You're not walking anywhere. You're more isolated from the cultural energy of the city. Your social life is more planned and less spontaneous. But you got a backyard, you got a garage, and you got space for your kids to have friends over. You've got a community of families. You've got good schools, and you've got a quieter, slower pace of life. And honestly, a lot of people want that. A lot of families thrive in that environment. So if you're a young, single, or married couple without kids, and your priority is career, culture, and social life, then living in DC is going to give you the best lifestyle. If you're plugged in, you're in the mix, you're where the action is. But if you're building a family, or if you value space, quiet, and access to great public schools, then the suburbs are going to be a better fit for your lifestyle. And here's the interesting thing. A lot of people do both. They live in DC in their 20s and early 30s while they're building their careers and enjoying their urban lifestyle. And then when they get married and have kids, they move out to the suburbs for the schools and the space. And that's a totally valid path. But you need to know which phase of life you're in right now, and you need to make the decision that fits that pace. So be sure to check your scorecard. If lifestyle and amenities and walkability are your top priorities, then DC wins. If family life and schools and space are your top priorities, then the suburbs win. Now let's talk about future-proofing your decision and understanding long-term value of living in DC versus around DC. And this is where things really get interesting, because real estate just isn't about where you live today. It's about what that property is going to be worth in 5, 10, or 20 years in the future. And historically, core DC neighborhoods have appreciated incredibly well. Capitol Hill, DuPont Circle, Georgetown, Logan Circle. These neighborhoods have seen massive appreciation over the past 2 decades. People who bought row homes in these areas in the early 2000s have seen their property values double or even triple. And the reason is simple. Land in DC is limited, so there's only so much of it. You can't build anymore in DC. So as demand continues to grow, prices continue to rise. But the suburbs have also appreciated well, especially in areas with excellent schools and good transportation. Places like Arlington, Bethesda, and parts of Fairfax have seen strong appreciation because they offer a great quality of life, and their proximity to DC is great without the urban challenges. So from a long-term investment perspective, both options can work, but you need to understand the dynamics. If you buy in a gentrifying DC neighborhood that's transitioning, you could see massive appreciation as that neighborhood continues to develop and attract more residents and businesses. Neighborhoods like Brooklyn, Pentworth, and parts of Anacostia are in that phase right now. But there's also risks. If that neighborhood doesn't continue to improve, or if crime remains an issue, your appreciation could be slower than expected. In the suburbs, appreciation tends to be more steadier and more predictable, especially in areas with strong school systems. But you're less likely to see that explosive appreciation that you might see in an up-and-coming DC neighborhood. So if you're thinking about long-term value, ask yourself this: are you willing to take on some risk and uncertainty in exchange for potentially higher appreciation? If so, buying in a transitioning DC neighborhood could be a great move. Or do you want stability, predictability, and a safer bet? If so, buying in an established suburban area with great schools is probably the smarter play. And look, I'm here to help you analyze specific neighborhoods and specific properties to understand where the value is. That's part of what I do. Now let's land the plane, because the question is this: is living in Washington, DC the best choice for you in 2026? Or should you be looking at the suburbs or around DC? The answer really comes down to who you are. Where are you in your life? And what are your priorities? Here's my verdict for 2026. Living in DC is the best choice for a very specific type of person. And whether or not that person is you depends on how you answer these simple questions. Question number 1, do you want walkability, culture, career access, and urban energy more than you want space, affordability, and a yard? Question number 2, are you building a career-first lifestyle, or are you building a family-first lifestyle? In other words, are networking events, happy hours, museums, and restaurants important to you? Or are good schools, parks, and quiet neighborhoods more important? Question number 3, can you handle smaller living spaces, higher cost, and urban noise in exchange for convenience and access? Question number 4, Are you okay with the realities of city life, package theft, street parking, higher cost of living, and the occasional inconveniences that come with urban living? If you answered yes to most of these questions, then living in DC is probably the right move for you. But on the flip side, living in DC is not the place for you if you need space and affordability. If you want a yard, a garage, a quiet cul-de-sac, if you're starting a family and want access to great public schools without paying $40,000 a year for private school, if long commutes don't bother you, or if your job is hybrid or remote, and if you choose to live in DC with the right expectations, in my opinion, the city more than over-delivers. Energy, the culture, the access to career opportunities, it's incredible. But if you move here expecting it to be affordable, spacious, and quiet, reality can hit pretty hard. So check your scorecard. How does this check the boxes for you personally? And as always, I'm here to be your resource for all things real estate. My name is Jarriel Jordan with the Home Team Realty Group. My team and I helped over 38 families navigate this exact decision last year, completing over $16 million in transactions across the entire DMV. So reach out to me. You can find my contact information down in the description box below, or you can book a call with me using the link pinned to the comment on this video. And if this content helps you, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I come out with videos like this bi-weekly that'll help guide you along your way as you plan your move to the DMV. Hit that subscribe button. It'll be worth it. Until next time, thanks for watching.